Many thanks again for rejoining us on the program TMI on the ITV network from wherever you're watching. Well, the challenge of developing communities and society generally relies on a collaborative effort. But where there is a lacuna, it becomes even more challenging for such development to take place. With the burgeoning insecurity problem in the country, the talk is for the traditional institution to be involved, the communities to be involved in terms of actualizing the dreams of a safer environment for us all to live in. But where there is some challenges with such an institution, what is the way out? I've got Honorable Abu Abdul Ganiyu, who's a community leader in Okbela, joining me on the show this morning from Edo North. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, let's begin our conversation from the fact that with the challenges that we have at the level of communities, particularly as it relates to the menace of insecurity, what's your take on the extent that we can have that level of mobilization for communities to be able to take a stand and defend themselves? In Edo State, for example, whether at the level of Edo North, Edo Central, or even Edo South, the story is the same. Kidnapping, armed robbery, and all of those vices is a major talking point. But what's your take on how we can mobilize, galvanize our people at the level of community to be able to engage and confront this monster?
Since the inception of the current administration, there has been a lot of emphasis on community policing in terms of involving the local vigilante, because you cannot know the areas more than the people that live in those areas. Like for instance, in Okbela, Isako's local government area, the Senator Monday Okpebolo's administration has set up vigilantes across the state and across the local governments, and Okbela is not left out. In fact, we have the sector commander for the vigilantes for Isako East as Barrister Yaya Giwa.
Okay.
Yesterday, they went into the bush and arrested some kidnappers. Most of them, what they do is, once you have the vigilantes that know the terrain, that knows the area, and then they are encouraged by government, because the best way to really police the place is to have the indigenes, the people involved. And that brings, comes to mind, people like the local indigenes, who knows the terrain, who knows the area, and that's what they have been doing. Like in Okbela, we have very, very strong vigilante presence, and that is why today you can see that the crime rate within the houses has drastically reduced, because we have two giant cement factories in Okbela, the Boa Cement and the Dangote, and that has led to influx of a lot of strangers, like Fulanis. If you go to Boa Gate, you see a lot of them with their tents there, and then they were using that as an opportunity to launch attacks in the night to kidnap people. You recall that some time ago, a full bus conveying workers of the Dangote cement factory, Okbela Cement PLC, they were kidnapped and taken into the bush. But with the current administration, with the seriousness and zero tolerance for insecurity by the Senator Monday Okpebolo's administration, that has drastically reduced, because the boys are now engaged, to do policy. They go into the bush with police to arrest kidnappers. And that has been going on now for a while.
Fantastic. That's very cheering news. How would you describe the role of the traditional rulers in terms of being able to lead the way, galvanize the people to challenge this? I mean, you use Okbela, for example, and against the background that Okbela is a host community for companies like Dangote and Boa. That means that there has to be some level of serious collaboration to be able to drive that, menace out of the community. So let me get to take on that.
Yes. Well, you can never overemphasize the importance of the traditional rulers in helping to curb insecurity in their domain. But in the case of Okbela, I can tell you the challenge we have is that we have no king. Our late Okopelagbe of Okpela, Alhaji A.Y. Idrisu, died almost 6 years ago, about 6 years ago, and ever since then we've not been able to have a king. Yes, there is one Akemokwe Lukman that currently parades himself as the king of Okpela, the Okopelagbe of Okpela, but I can tell you that that is not the correct situation in Okpela. In Okpela, when our late highness died, the normal procedure is to get a proclamation from the state government, and then within 90 days, the kingmakers will elect a king, and then the name will be forwarded to the governor. In our own case, there was a proclamation the day the election was to take place, the day they were to elect a new king. The kingmakers were gathered in Ogute because we have 2 ruling houses and 6 ruling areas.
Okay.
And of the 6 ruling areas, they are expected to elect 4 kingmakers. In the event that the area, that is the particular kindred that is supposed to produce a king, if they are unable to have a consensus, the kingmakers gather to elect one among all the qualified male adults.
Okay.
On the particular day when the election was to take place, they said there was insecurity. I was there myself, so the election never took place.
Okay.
It was inconclusive. And then the kingmakers, some persons now decided to send 3 names to Godwin Obaseki that they were unable to conduct an election to elect a king. And immediately the traditional council, the next they wrote to Obaseki and said, no, that is not our tradition, that is not our custom. And even the chieftaincy declaration of 1989 clearly states that the kingmakers should elect 1 person and forward to the governor.
Not 3 persons.
Not 3. So that the 3 names forwarded to the governor has no backing of Okpela. It has nothing to do with the tradition of Okpela, and that the governor should allow the people elect their own king. And that was why for over 5 years we had no king. Obaseki agreed, but that he will look at an appropriate time where he will be able to, give us opportunity for the kingmakers to elect
that
their
decision.
king, make that decision. That never happened until after the election. Immediately, Aswe lost the election, PDP lost the election. In fact, Obaseki was already abroad when the state ESCO purportedly issued a letter of appointment to Akemokwe Lukman.
Yeah, because I mean, that's what you just mentioned now is then the public space that he was given a staff of office. Is it that automatically the stamp of authority that is expected to, give him that, leverage to?
No, the stamp of authority should come from the people. The people are expected to elect their own king. Because giving that power to the governor, there is nowhere in the constitution. It's just like, INEC conducts election and it is inconclusive. You decide to send 3 names of the governorship, the candidates that are contested for governor, you decide to send them to the president to choose one.
Okay.
If the law says the people should elect a governor, and then the person is sworn in, you cannot now send 3 names because the election was inconclusive. We've had several elections in Nigeria that were inconclusive, but what INEC does is to fix another date to conclude the election. So what the people of Okpela simply asked for was that it should allow the people elect their own king, and then the governor will give staff of office, not the governor choosing from 3, because there is nowhere in the declaration that says you can send 3 names. And let me be honest with you, after that incident, there was a protest by the Okpela people. The entire Okpela people protested. It was on NTA, where they said, no, this is not the way to choose a king, because this is a political king. Because the only reason Obaseki gave Akemokwe Lukman the staff of office after losing the election, and that was more than 5 years after the demise of our late king.
This is politicization of the traditional institution.
The traditional institution, because he now told everybody who was contesting to go and deliver their unit. When you deliver your unit, then we can talk. And then of all of them who were contesting, it was only Akemoku Lukman that won his unit. And he did that dubiously.
Okay, now let's leave that part of it.
Yes.
Let me bring you back a little bit on a very interesting part that I want to leverage on. Recently, the governor of Edo State, Senator Mondo Okpebholo, was in Edo North for a security meeting with all the major stakeholders, and then we had all the traditional rulers there to engage the government on this issue. So where was Okpebholo in this whole conversation?
Yes, that is why, because the governor, immediately after the inauguration of the current administration, the Okpebholo sent a delegation, high-power delegation to the governor to say we have no king. Everybody who is who in Okpebholo was in that meeting, including the House of Representatives member from Okpebholo, Honorable Anamero Dekeri, Honorable Godwin Esheshi, Alhaji Ubakwe, Chief Joshua Ogene, everybody who is what he sought was in that delegation to inform the governor that we have no king. And again, his name was deliberately smuggled into that list because there is no way Okpebholo people would have elected Lukman as king if the process was allowed to take place.
But he is a member of the ruling house. He belongs to the ruling house in Okpebholo.
Well, you see, yes, everybody
doesn't that qualify him to have a shot if the opportunity presents itself? Because we know that, you know, across Nigeria, just like you mentioned, there are ruling houses from which a king is supposed to emerge.
Yes. Well, in Okpebholo, we have ruling houses, we have kindreds. But because they were in government, because it was very, very close to Obaseki, they smuggled his name into that list. Let me tell you why Okpebholo people would never have gone for Akemoku Lukman. I was president of Okpebholo Student Union, and they added over to Barrister Akuri Afegboa, who in turn added over to Akemoku Lukman. But in his time, the 600 bags of cement were given to Okpebholo Student Union to build secretariat. He sold the 600 bags of cement.
Yeah, but these are very weighty allegations which you cannot independendly verify here on the show.
Yes, so I am saying you can go ahead and verify them. And I'm telling you that I will indemnify ITV.
Okay.
I am saying this from a position.
So do you have evidence to back this up?
He was impeached for that reason. He was removed as the student union president of Okpebholo for selling 600 bags of cement belonging to Okpebholo. And he is on record to be the only Okpebholo Student Union president who did not produce the magazine, because we have a magazine. It used to be called Utali, now Okpebholo Voice. So he didn't produce it because he was impeached for selling 600 bags of cement donated by the cement factory in Okpebholo to build now secretariat. Okay. Aside from that, somebody who attended Okpebholo Secondary School, we went to ABU Zaria together. We were roommates. But in ABU Zaria, I am saying you can also do this, you can also verify. He claimed to be baggy. He claimed Niger State to be able to get share scholarship to go to school. He didn't claim Edo State. And he schooled in Okpebholo. He did the secondary school in Okpebholo. But to gain admission, you know, they usually say educationally less disadvantaged states. Then they give them opportunity, you know, to give them scholarship to be able to go to school. He claimed baggy. He did not claim Edo State. So when did he realize this from Okpebholo? That he will now contest?
But I also say that, I mean, from some of these background analysis that you have given, looks like you're on a personal vendetta. I mean, you're schoolmate, university mates, and all of that. I mean, you're a former Okpebholo student, you know, president, and he was too. So isn't this a personal vendetta that you're carrying out?
No, you see, I'll tell you something. He was on air here to say one barrister, Giwa, Yaya Giwa, that is a kidnapper, that the guy was involved in the abduction, attempted abduction of Apostle Suleiman. For goodness sake, somebody want to be king. If you are going to be a king of a place, will you come on air to condemn one of your subjects in that manner? And this is the sector commander of the. It is on record that Governor Mondo Okpebholo has zero tolerance for criminality. As at when that crime took place, when Apostle Suleiman they attempted to kidnap or murder him, Obaseki was in government. Luke Akemokwe was very, very close to Obaseki. And people were arrested for that crime.
Okay.
They never mentioned Barrister Yaya Giwa as a suspect in that case. He was never invited by the police. How come Akemokwe Lukman will now come? So that is the kind of character he is. I can tell you, you can ask people like Kasim Afegwa, you can ask the Mesheshi, almost every family in Okpela is good at writing petitions against everybody. And for the mothers, let me tell you why he cannot even be king of Okpela. Immediately that staff of office was given to him, he applied for security coverage with the then commissioner of police. He was denied security coverage because they told him very clearly that it was not possible for him to go to Okpela for coronation because of security reports, the security concerns. They didn't give him any escort. What he did was to approach Kogi State through the former CSO government house, Haruna, to give him soldiers to come to Okpela. And while he was coming to Okpela, he sent thugs to Okpela, and 3 people were murdered. I am saying this with all sense of responsibility because I was the complainant. Okay, I reported the case to the state CID. Akemokwe Lukman was arrested, and from here transferred to RT in Abuja for almost a month until Obaseki intervened and the DG government house in Abuja came there to arrange for their bail. As we speak now, he is standing trial for those murders. Okay, let's magistrate court.
Let me pause you there for a moment, and let's get straight to a part of this conversation that I need to get your response to. For example, you didn't speak to the issue of the security meeting that was held in Edo North. I mean, he was there, he was invited, but you said he smuggled his name into it. I don't know.
No, he was not invited. He was not in the security meeting. Okay, then second, I was there. He was not there. He was not invited because the government does not recognize him as your Okpela Agbe of Okpela.
Okay, then that's one. Let me just take you on this point too. Yes. Now, you said, oh, well, he is not accepted by the people and all of that. Yes. But you also said a while ago that there is relative stability in terms of security of lives and property in Okpela. And we know that he has been in the saddle by virtue of the staff of office that was given to him by the previous administration.
He's in the saddle on social media. I can assure you that Akemokwe Lukman does not have any palace anywhere in Okpela. He does not have the support of the people. The only reason why you have relative, I'm telling you, I can show you, if they have taken my phone, I would have shown you the people that were murdered. A day, he sent a notification that he was coming for coronation on the 5th, and then on the 5th night, on the 6th night while he was coming, 3 people were murdered. And those people, he is standing trial on those matters. So because of that, he doesn't even come to Okpela. If he wants to come, he sneak in and sneak out. As we speak now, he's in Benin. And the relative peace we are enjoying right now is as a result of the deliberate action by the Senator Monday Okpewolo's administration by setting up and equipping and encouraging vigilantes within the Okpela community. And it is the head of those vigilantes that are going to the bush to arrest kidnappers is Yaya Giwa. The person he said is a kidnapper. Okay. He is the sector commander for Vigilante Esako East. And those murders he accused that man for, they are the same. That is the same thing he is standing trial for.
So you're saying that the way to go in dealing with insecurity at the community level is state police?
Yes, well, not necessarily state police, because I don't know how they will operate the state police. But as it is now, I can say that we already have state police. Because every village, every local government, they have vigilante, and then they have a state head, they have local government heads, they have ward heads, and they are the ones that are currently assisting the police to carry out some of these activities. I am telling you authoritatively that even yesterday, these same boys went into the bush with security operatives, and they were able to arrest a lot of, they were able to arrest 2 kidnappers. Okay. Who have been added over to the police. Last week, this same boy, Barrister Giwa, led a team of vigilante, and they arrested 11 kidnappers, where the kidnappers even confessed that one of the reverend fathers that was kidnapped, they were responsible for it, and that they gave some money to one captain in his hotel, and the captain has also been arrested. It's these same boys that assisted the police to calm the situation, and Lukman is nowhere close to that place at all. He's not in Okpela. He's not really, he does not have a palace. If you see him claim he has a palace, he's under a canopy, and he will just come in and then go out. And now, the reason he granted that interview, I can tell you authoritatively, the meeting in Iyamo that was called by Senator Adams Oshomole that had the governor in attendance. There, when it was the turn of Insecurity to speak, this same sector commander, Barrister Yaya Giwa, stood up and he reported the activities within the local government. He told the gathering that one of the problems we have in Okpela, in that axis, is Akemoko and Lukman, because he's extorting monies from the Fulanis who are staying in front of the Boa, because they are butchers. So if you go to them, you encourage them to stay, he collects money from them. And that the government should call him to order, because that in itself is a security
someone
threat.
You said doesn't stay in the village, can't stay in the village because it doesn't have the backing, it doesn't have the support. How is he able to extort money from people when he's not on the ground?
He recruited some boys, because the way it is, if you check the election,
if he's able to do that, it means that he's holding sway in terms of leadership.
That's where I'm going to.
So you will not be entirely correct to say that people don't want him. He's rejected.
I will tell you why. Majority of the people, go and check the election results. Okpela voted massively for APC, for Senator Monde Okwewolo, while Lukman was the author of the Amidst rabbit, working for Obaseki, and he was in PDP. So the only people he has that are supporting him currently are PDP members in Okpela. So it is not, I will not tell you that it does not have one single way, because the PDP, their own is that, okay, you have taken the state from us, let us take Okpela. I don't know if you understand me. So he engaged some of them. He employed one as his employment committee chairman, one as of course, there's no matter how bad.
Because the question I'm asking,
those are the people he said
who is that presiding over the traditional institution? If you say he is not in charge, he doesn't have the backing of the people, who now presides over the traditional institution?
We have senior Zaikis, because when the late Okokbelagbe died, the norm is, if you have the kingmakers, they become the regents, who will now serve the community in the interim, while we await a king to be properly, appointed.
Okay.
So now, what happens is that after the late Okokbelagbe, there is always somebody next to him.
Okay.
The next person to him serves, and currently we have Chief Oneshoze, who is currently acting as the head of the traditional council in Okpela. So those are the people that are currently piloting the affairs of Okpela, not Akemoko Elukman. Okay. What Akemoko Elukman does is to just call some boys and say, okay, let me shock you. Henry Dogu, who was the procurement director all through Obaseki's tenure, immediately he retired, he came home, and then in connivance with Lukman, became the CDA chairman to Dangote, because he is PDP, Lukman is PDP, and Lukman is signatory to that account. So what they did was recently, they shared monies that was met for the community, 458 million naira. That money was paid by Dangote when he came to Okpela to have that cement factory. Then Chief Chasadoga's son, in fact, he was the one who drafted the chieftaincy declaration when he was a member of the State House of Assembly. And he recently granted interview to Okpela TV to say, look, we do not have a king because no king has been properly chosen. So when that money was released to Okpela, Chasadoga went to court to challenge the disbursement, that money should not be spent because it's meant for the community. Then Akemoko Elukman blackmailed some of the chiefs. Then he was not even the king. I'm telling you why the people don't want him.
Okay.
Then he blackmailed them, took them to EFCC. They now promised him that they will be giving him 10% of every money that comes to Okpela. And
when these agreements were made,
I'm from the community.
And even if you're from the community, are there documents to substantiate these conversations?
Yes, and I'm challenging you to investigate what I'm telling you.
Okay.
I have his voice note. I can also send it to you. I have the documents. I can also send them to you. So they now made him signatory to the account. And when that 458 million was paid, they gave him 10% of that money and made him signatory to the account. This was why Charles Adoga went to court to challenge the disbursement. But recently, you know, pretending to be the Okokbela of Okbela and then be signatory to the account, and Henry Dogu be signatory to the account, they shared the money among themselves. We raised the point, and we have written petitions to the EFCC. Dangote also paid 250 million. So his only interest in the Okokbela ship is to be able to extort monies from Boa and Dangote.
There's no evidence to back that up. But let me just take you on this
point. I have his voice note on that as evidence. I can give it to you.
Okay, let me take you on this point. What is the fate of the community in terms of insecurity and managing the community to live up to its expectations, especially the expectations of the people, against the background that all of these issues now are before a court of competent jurisdiction?
Well, right now, Okbela is leaderless, except for the most senior high chief, who is currently piloting the affairs of Okbela. What Lukman does is social media noise making. He is not our king. And in terms of security, the people have taken their destiny into their hands, constitute themselves into vigilante to assist us in curbing the issues of kidnappings and all of that. And it is those same people, just because they are not in the same political party with him, that he is condemning. Because he came here to say that the head of that security, you and I know that there is no way Senator Mode Okpewolo will make somebody who is a criminal the head of security. Because those vigilantes are not currently under his control. He is trying to destroy them. Dangote gave us 3 losses recently to assist us, to assist the vigilantes in carrying out their duties. He seized one. One is in his house, gave one to soldiers, and they gave one to police. For goodness sake, the government is there to give the police and the soldiers vehicles. What he simply did was to bribe them, to give them those vehicles so that they will be able to protect him whenever he comes in. I am telling you, the first time he came to Okbela, it was Honorary Haruna that spoke to the soldiers in Okene that gave him security backing. While people were dead on the streets, the people had not even been taken to the mortuary. He was doing coronation in his parlor while those soldiers were guiding him. A real king, somebody who truly has the interest of the people, and the people truly choose you. You don't need soldiers to guide you to come into town. Okay. All right. Unless they give you, and he was arrested in Fidelity Bank, front of Fidelity, inside Fidelity Bank. So what's the way out of this? For those murders. What's the way out? It is very, very simple. Our people have written to the government of the day, and I can tell you, the governor has set up a 5-man administrative panel of inquiry to look into the propriety of his appointment, and headed by the Commissioner for Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs. The committee is a 5-man committee between Local Government and Chieftaincy Affairs and the Ministry of Justice. Fantastic. And the government is currently awaiting that report to be able to take a decision on the next step. Because what the people have said, I was in the meetings with the governor, where the governor promised to look into the matter and then to give us. What happens? And what our people have said is that return the process back to us. Okay. Because we don't want a situation where we will have a political king. In fact, our people call him way big king. Because what the governor has said is that.
What happens to the court processes that are ongoing? Are they dead on arrival from what you're saying?
Well, there's only one court process that is ongoing in Agenebode. And then let me also tell you that that court process was actually pending when they issued in that staff of office. Now,
Honorable we'll pause you here today, and I hope that we can engage this issue subsequently. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.